Welcome back everybody, and today we have this really awesome Hinoki Cypress. Now, when I first bought this tree, I honestly didn't even know what it was called because I went to a new nursery, and when I was walking around the nursery, the trees that really stuck out the most to me were all these trees that they actually had as display trees. You could tell they'd been there many years. This one happened to be in a cement bonsai style pot with 3 other trees that were smaller than this, but they were all kind of stacked in like a neat kind of forest looking way. And I really wanted this tree. So after I bought 3 other trees there, I asked the lady if there's any way we could dig this tree out of that pot and I could take it home. So she agreed to let me do it. I purchased it, but again, it had no price tag, no name on it. Just from the look of the trunk and the needles and foliage, it looked like some type of Hinoki Cypress to me, but I didn't know what kind. So I actually had to go back to that nursery to pick up 2 huge black pines with my trailer that I didn't have with me that day. So when I went back, I started looking around the nursery a little bit more. And when I did that, I found a ton of these little tiny cypresses for sale, and it looked just like this. The foliage was identical. They had the same like really full like ball shaped foliage. And I ended up looking at the name on those, and it's called the Dainty Doll Hinoki Cypress. So that's what pretty sure that this is. Again, it wasn't labeled, so I'm not 100% sure, but it looks exactly like those smaller ones that they had for sale there. So honestly, I mean, this basically looks like a little tree already. Especially since I put it right in this this pot that it's in now is almost the same size as the pot that all 3 of the trees were in. So it's got plenty of room to grow out. And I don't really need this to get much bigger. It already looks really cool. But my goal is to go in today and just kind of actually make some pad separation and flatten out the bottom of the pads that I really want. Kind of get rid of this part down here. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to go crazy with this because it already looks really cool. So I'm going to zoom the camera in. A lot of this is going to be me thinking about what I want to cut. And then I'm just going to make a few small cuts here and there. Take out just probably some very small branches and just kind of shape this thing up a little bit. I think it's going to be a really awesome little bonsai tree. So let's get started here. Alright everybody, so if you see me up there like feeling in the tree, what I'm doing is as these branches grow, what happens is they start off, like that. So it's just a bushy green blob of foliage. As they grow, become more stick-like and get bigger out here, everything inside starts to die off, become brown, eventually will either fall off, but what happens is usually falls into a little trap in where all the branches meet, and they'll just kind of sit there and turn to dirt. So when I'm in there, what I'm doing is I'm trying to carefully go through and just kind of break those off, like that. Right, so then you get more of an open, like stick look to the branch. You don't have all of the dead needles just sitting in there. So not only are you preventing those things from just getting trapped and turning to dirt, potentially just starting to rot the bark, but you're going to clean it up. It's going to look a lot nicer, when it's in there like this. You'll actually be able to see the little sticks kind of like holding the pad up. And that's kind of the look that I'm going for with this tree and most of the trees that I do. So, and I think that's most people's goal, is to have the fingery, sticks underneath the pad that kind of hold the pad. So that's kind of what we're trying to do there. If you see me going through spending quite a bit of time with my fingers in the foliage. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to clean all those out. So. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's really starting to open up and separate the pads. And all I'm doing, I'm just taking these little ones out that are kind of hidden down against the trunk. They really don't add much to the top of the foliage. And they're not really, even if I let them grow out, they're just going to interfere with the other pads. So just taking them out of there. And just by doing that, it's really starting to open up this tree and separate all the pads. I'm just going to keep doing that. Before I do anything with the big pads, I'm going to just get all these little ones out of there and see how it looks afterwards. It may, be completely done after I just get all these out of there, but we'll see once they're all out. Another thing that I try to do, this may initially hurt the visual look of the tree. Just because maybe a pad won't look so full, but eventually it's gonna, add to the way the tree looks over time. Because what happens is, I don't know if you can see right here, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 branches coming out of a spot about that big. And there's no way we can let all 8 branches right there grow and have this tree look nice and not have crossing branches or branches that are interfering with each other. So it's much nicer to me to have one large branch with a bunch of little fingery branches coming off with the pad sitting on top of it, which is kind of what, I don't know if you can see it, but that's what we have right there, right? One big branch with all these branches coming off. You can see all the fingery arms. Well, I still have to clean that up a bit, but you can see all the little fingery arms kind of holding the pad, right? And underneath it looks pretty flat without trimming anything off. So that's what we want to create all over the tree. But we can't do that when you have 8, you literally have 8 branches growing out of the same spot, and some of them are very small. So if I take these small ones off, initially it's going to take this foliage away from the tree, but after I do that, I can let the bigger one thicken up. I can cut it so it buds back, give it more air so it's not give more light down in here because this is gone, and it's going to help to fill that pad out. But for now, what I have to do is get rid of some of these. I got to pick which ones I want to get rid of, carefully kind of hold the pads down, see how it's going to affect the tree, and then carefully take the one out that I don't want. And it might be smart to even take a bigger one out because maybe one of the smaller ones is shaped a little better and you can do some ramification to make it look better in the end. And maybe for now it looks small and kind of weird, but it may be better to leave one of those if it kind of fits the look of the tree better. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to pick probably a couple of these 8 branches here and just clip them out, and then we'll see what it looks like after. But some of them have to go. I can't leave them all in there. So I don't know if you can see that, but as I take them out, it's already creating these really nice pads. I'm not even touching these yet. The only thing I did was take one branch off right there and a tiny one right there. But already these 2 are starting to get a lot of separations, obviously this one too, but you're getting that separation look already, and then I might not even have to do much other than just go through and clean all this dead stuff out of these to make this tree look awesome. I got a few more to take off down here, and then I'm gonna move on to the rest of the tree. This is a big decision I need to make on this tree. Probably gonna give it some time. That might be one of the last things I do, but this right here blocks the whole view of the trunk. This huge branch, although the branch looks really cool, I gotta decide, do I want to try, it doesn't feel like super flexible. So do I want to try to bend it down into its canopy over here, which will give you a little bit of view of the trunk? Or do I just take it off? It's also on the inside of a bend, which is kind of a big no-no. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want, bonsai, you're the artist. There's no actual laws, but you know, most of the time it looks kind of weird to have a branch on the inside of a bend. So I'm sure there's places where it looks good, but this one may be one of those places where it's gotta go, because it really does kind of blocks the view of the trunk, and then it kind of takes away from that nice S shape of the trunk. So this one probably will go, but I may take it and kind of bend it out of the way, but I still don't think that that looks all that great. But it does kind of leave a big void there if I take it out. It really kind of takes away from that whole bushy look of the tree. So it's kind of a tough decision. Really like this pad, guys. Look at that. I mean, just, I love the way how it looks. All, like I said, like it looks like it's holding itself up. Just has that really cool look. It's got a nice shape to it. I'd love to expose that, but I gotta get rid of some like major pads. I guess these are gonna end up probably having to get bent down if I want people to see that. Definitely don't want to get rid of these. These are really nice. So this one, I would like to push it back into the trunk a little bit. So I may come back and like trim the tips of these off so that next year it can kind of grow in a little bit further, kind of bud back a bit. Not sure how these cypresses bud back. I don't have enough experience to know that, like, if I trim this off, you know, am I going to get the buds back here where I want and eventually be able to suck this back closer to the tree. But I feel like, or I could take this off and just bend this down. You know what I mean? So bend that down, keep it trimmed off, try to keep it as close to the tree as I can, and then this will grow into a fuller pad eventually. So not quite sure what I want to do there yet. I think that would look really nice though. Definitely changing though. I mean, you can already see it looks like there's little like balloon pads all over the place just from me. I really haven't taken that much out. I mean, I can pick it up with almost one hand. I mean, that is it. That's all I've taken off this tree. And a bunch of like dead twigs, and you can already see so much more light coming through the tree. It's already got its own like natural pad separations. Definitely got to work on this up here. I'll do that later. That'll be kind of like a fine tuning as these ones that are kind of poking out. Pick which one I want, but I need to kind of bring it back a little bit. So I talked about this in my larger Hinoki Cypress video, but one of the key aspects to bonsai is to not have symmetry, right? We don't want a tree to look the same on one side as it does on the other. And this may be one of the key factors in making the decision that I make with this major lower branch, and I'll show you why. So if I bring this branch, I want to see the trunk, so I gotta move the branch. It's either getting wired out of the way or it's coming off. So if I go like this and pull it out, what it does, at least the way I look at it, right, well, let me get that out of the way. All right, so if I do that with it, right, then you have the same kind of lower pad shape over here as you do over here, It really takes away from the swoop of the trunk because it just looks like, kind of has this circular shape. So what it's doing is it's creating a little bit too much symmetry with the pads over here and this pad over here, right? If we take it off completely, I don't know if you can, like that, now you see like we have kind of a swooping shape to the tree. There's nothing down here. There's kind of a negative space that your mind kind of has to fill in, which makes you more interested in the tree. And then over here, we can move these pads down a little bit to actually give it even more of a shape, more pad separation. But again, if I let that come back, it really just kind of kills the tree a bit, right? It doesn't make you think about the shape of the tree as much. So that's one of the, like I said, the key things that we're trying to do here is get your mind to follow the tree and fill in the negative space of the tree. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in my bigger Hinoki Cypress video, because I had a lot of branches on that tree where they would be the same on both sides, because these Hinoki Cypresses, they grow only on either side of the tree, so both branches come out and it just looks the same on both sides if you don't cut them off. So, but this right here, I think it's going to have to go. It is going to create a void here for sure, but I think that's just going to have to be part of the way the tree looks, because this just kind of really takes away from the tree, I believe. So I think that's got to go. I'm going to trim a little bit more, think about it, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to whack that one right off. So I think what I'm going to do is take this one off and wire this one down and over a little bit to kind of fill in that space just a bit. Again, I don't want to take away from the shape of the trunk, but I don't want like a completely empty space here with like some foliage there. So I think that would look nice. That would pull this down and it would reveal this pad that we already talked about earlier that I really like the way it looks, the way that the branches are holding up the foliage. So this would expose it from this side. And what's cool about this tree is it works on both sides, right? You flip it around and it looks just as cool. A little bit fuller over here. I'm not done with this side yet, but again, no matter which way I turn this thing, it looks really neat, which is pretty exciting when you're working, because you know, usually I like to rotate my trees so they're not getting the same sun all year round. So it's nice to have a tree where no matter where you turn it, it looks really cool. So that's kind of neat. Still thinking this branch is too far away from the tree. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's very long compared to all the other branches are right up against the trunk. This one comes way out. It's at least 2 times longer than almost any branch on the tree. So I'm really thinking whack it off here, bring this down a bit, fill that space in, and really work on developing this pad over the next few years. So as I work on this upper pad, again, it may not look exactly the way I want it to when I'm done, but what I'm trying to do is there are spots up there where I'm running into the same issue I had down here, where there's all these little branches coming out of like a crevice, like a V, where the 2 main branches come off. There's inside there's all these little branches coming out, and they do help to make this look like a nice full canopy now. But at the same time, they really take away from the branching look, right? It doesn't look like there's branches holding up the foliage. It just looks like a complete ball. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna die off and they're just gonna sit there in those crevices and really not let the light or air come through. And it's going to take away from the look and the health of the tree. So if I can get them out of there, not have so many branches growing out of one spot, in the end that'll be better off for the look of the tree and the health of the tree. So I'm trying to get those out of here. It may take away from the fullness of this canopy for now, but you know, with a few years growth, that'll come right back and I can shape it however I want to at that point. So. I can't decide to put on this branch. I feel kind of like an idiot, but I think I'm actually, before I cut it off, I'm going to go through, leave it where it is, don't bend it at all, and I'm going to thin these out drastically. So I'm going to go right up the, let me see if I can give you an example. That's a pretty good one. Alright, so I'll try to get this focus for you. What I'm going to do is go literally right up side of the branch and just take as many of these off as I can until we get to the very end. Okay, to really thin it out. And I'm going to do that and see if that lets enough, you know, by doing that, by thinning it out. First off, it's going to give it that branchy look that I want, and it may let enough, you know, visual light through to actually see the trunk, you know, and kind of help the shape of the tree instead of hurt it. So I'm going to try that before I take it off, because, you know, when you leave it tucked in, maybe trim it a little bit over here, I think it looks cool like this. But again, you can't see the shape of the trunk, right? And if you pull it down, it's coming out right in the corner of this bend. And then it doesn't look as good when you pull it down. It really takes away from this side of the tree. So it's either I leave it where it's at and trim it up, or it comes off. So when you see me over here, that's what I'm doing. I know I'm gonna probably take it off, but at the same time, if I can thin it out and make it look really cool, probably just leave it. But yeah, it's gonna take some thought. I'm gonna, like I said, clean it all up. We'll kind of go from there, whether I cut it off or not. Crazy how much stuff gets stuck in there when it dies, especially where it's all thick like this. I mean, it looks so much, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it looks so much more open just after, you know, rustling my fingers through it and kind of breaking off all the little dead foliage and brushing it out of there. If you all see what I'm doing, but I'm just going through up here and just trimming any branches that come straight off the bottom of the main branch coming out to the foliage, and it really helps to flatten that bottom of the pad out. You don't want the branches coming down, especially big thick branches. You want everything to kind of have that upward. Like I said, I'm trying to create that branches holding the foliage look, not the foliage coming down. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going under here. Even the little ones like this will eventually become a bigger branch. Take that out of there. it up because you can actually see the shape of all the larger branches, and it really adds to the curve and flow of the trunk, because this is all part of that main trunk. And before you couldn't even see any of this, but now you can see this one right here kind of has this really nice curve out, and this one curves up and then back that way, and then this one kind of branches out and holds the foliage this way. Sorry everybody, I had to go dump the memory card again. Got full, so I'm back again here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to zoom in a little more. See here. So, I don't know if you can see that, but what I've been doing is just going up these branches, clipping off the foliage, and it really helps to open that up. See how it's really opened that up, and now you can actually see down into the trunk a lot better. Right, we're actually getting some nice shape to this tree, right? So I may end up leaving that branch. That's the one that I thought I was gonna cut off, but I'm not quite sure yet. I think that now that I've thinned it, it allows you to see into the trunk enough to keep it there, and not having to bend it down doesn't take away from, you know, doesn't add symmetry to the tree. So I think I'm gonna leave that for now anyways. Yeah, it's better to leave something than cut it off, obviously, because you can't just go put it back on. So even if, you know, I look at this thing for, you know, all winter, and then next spring comes and I look at it and I'm just like, man, that branch really wants to go, I'll just go cut it off. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna leave it for now. You can see the trunk, you can see the shape of the tree now. I'm gonna keep working on the rest of the tree. This arm right here is probably gonna go, that's that one that I said is really long, and then bring this one down. And I really don't have much more to do. I think it's looking pretty awesome as it is, so. do is wire these two branches with one piece of wire. It's the only wiring I'm going to do on the tree. And I may do a little bit more thinning, probably not this one, but up in this canopy, the main canopy. Just a little bit. I don't want to do too much more of this tree right away. And then just let everything kind of grow back for a while. I want it to really establish itself in this pot. And then, you know, next year, I'll probably come through and just fine tune it a little bit more. You know, really get up into the canopy and really trim all the stuff that I don't want in there out. But I think, you know, overall it's looking pretty cool. Obviously this looks a little bit, you know, more full than any of the rest of the tree, so I need to kind of thin it out a little bit, give it a little bit more of that branchy type look, so that it matches the rest of the tree. But like I said, I'm going to go this branch, one piece of wire, and then I'm going to jump up there and do that upper canopy. Trying to do like a very gentle wrap. I don't want to, I'd rather not damage this really cool corky bark. So I'm just trying to lightly wrap it around the branch, just enough that I can bend it. Alright everybody, so that's that. I don't really want to go any further. I think it looks really neat. It definitely came out a little bit more sparse than I was expecting. I wanted to leave a lot of that bushy type tree look, but as I got into it, I really wanted to expose all of these very nice, like fingery looking branches that hold up the canopy. I could literally spend hours and hours going through this tree and doing things like this, like taking off this little tiny dead branch. But what I think I want to do now, I have it pretty well shaped the way I want it to be. And again, I don't have much experience. Actually, I have zero experience with this exact type of tree and very little experience with Hinoki cypresses in general. And I don't see too many like instructional videos out there on them. So I'm probably gonna have to maybe get a book on, you know, Hinoki cypresses and maybe do some reading. But what I want to do is actually just let this grow back. I want to, you know, gain some experience basically with these trees. I want to see how these pads continue to grow now that I've opened it up, because obviously the foliage is trying to reach the sun, and when it was completely bushy, you know, it's going to grow a lot different than it is now that everything is exposed, now that the wind and air can get through there. So I'm really kind of interested to see how the foliage develops. I think I have a good idea of how it's going to work, but I've already made some pretty big cuts on what I would consider a leader branch, which is like the main part of the branch that's going to continue to extend out. And the reason I've made a few of those cuts is because I want this to stay pretty compact. It is a dwarf tree, but at the same time, I don't want these to continue to extend away from the tree. So if I could and not ruin the design, I went ahead and clipped what felt and looked like the leader branch inside of these pads. The one that's the thickest, that is sticking out the furthest, that's where the branch is going to continue to grow and reach out past the tree. So I'm gonna watch it, you know, over the next year or so, kind of see how they're growing out, clip those back. I don't want these to grow out anymore. I just want them to kind of fill in a little bit and keep this branchy look. Up here, I'd like to, you know, really develop a really nice canopy up top. But again, I got to see how the tree grows, and that's something that I can only do with time. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Let me zoom in real quick so you guys can see. Here. All right, so as you can see, it looks really cool from here. Even if you were to go on like a little bit of an angle, still looks really cool. And if you were to flip it around, you know, it even still looks really nice from the back. And I actually really like the way that this branch looks from the back. That's that same branch we talked about earlier. Just how it kind of, you know, spiders up and really kind of holds the foliage. And that's what I'm going to try to develop all the way around the tree. But again, I could spend hours and hours and hours just sitting here doing this. But I'd rather let it kind of recover a little bit, and then I can come back into it later on. But I think it looks really cool. Definitely one of the coolest trees I've done so far. I mean, even from the side like that, I mean, it still looks kind of neat. But this branch down here, we talked about that earlier. I think as of right now, because of how open I got it, I think it's going to add to the design of the tree. So I'm going to leave it. Maybe in the future I'll take it off. I don't really know. But that is the Dainty Doll Hinoki Cypress. Really fun tree to work with, and I'm pretty excited to watch this one grow. I'm definitely keeping this one for a long time. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, watching the videos. Really appreciate it. Leave your comments below if there's something you would have done different. I'd love to hear, you know, what everybody else feels about these trees I'm doing. You know, if you do have experience with this exact tree, you know how it grows, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Maybe we can talk about it. You can give me some advice, and you know, we can grow this thing together. So I'll keep you updated on how it's growing. I don't know how much, it's probably not going to grow much this year, but you know, next spring we'll kind of come back to it and see how it takes off. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Like and subscribe if you want notifications on future videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody.